A bright beam of blue light streamed from the strange ship's front. It wasn't a weapon. It didn't destroy anything. It just opened, like a doorway into another world. "Is that a hangar bay?" Officer Lane asked. Commander Elise Work watched the feed on the main screen from Station Kessler 9. The ship had now come to a complete stop just beyond Earth's moon. It was silent, waiting. She had seen many alien ships before, some glowing with plasma, others built like living organisms. But this ship, it was smooth, silver, and silent, like something built by ghosts. "We're getting more signals," Lane said. "Same frequency as before. Very old, early 22nd century tech." Translated. A moment passed, and then the message came through the speakers, broken and scratchy, like it was coming from a dusty old radio. "Project Echo Star. Access code required. Commander Elise Work. DNA verified. Welcome aboard." The entire control room went silent. Elise froze. What did it just say? Hartman asked over the command link. It said my name." "Is this a joke?" he barked. "What kind of alien ship knows who you are?" "I don't know," she said, her voice shaking. "But it just verified my DNA from orbit. That's impossible. Unless..." She didn't finish the sentence. The possibility was too big, too terrifying. ####. United Space Command went into full lockdown. Top scientists, historians, and military leaders were called in. No one had answers. Project Echo Star had been canceled nearly 40 years ago. It was a dream to send human ships beyond the limits of deep space, even past the known galaxy. The prototype was experimental and never launched officially. But Elise knew better. Her father, Commander Aaron Rourke, had been the lead test pilot, and he vanished with that prototype. Everyone believed the test ship had exploded, but now something was back, and it recognized her. ####. Hours later, a decision was made. Elise would board the ship. Only she could. Its systems were locked to her bloodline. DNA access. No one else could get near it. "You're not going in alone," General Hartman said over the comms. "Take a recon drone with you, armed, just in case." Elise nodded, pulling on her pressure suit. She had trained for combat, rescue missions, and first contact diplomacy. But this was personal. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked at the ship waiting in the black sky beyond. The launch pod from Kessler 9 carried her toward the ghost ship in total silence. As she neared the strange vessel, it opened further, like it had been waiting for her. Her shuttle was gently pulled in by a gravity beam. No alarms, no weapons, just quiet. ####. Inside, her suit lights flickered across cold metal walls. There were no crew, no bodies, no signs of life. But there was oxygen, artificial gravity, and lights that slowly turned on as she walked, one by one, ahead of her, leading her somewhere. Commander Elise Work. The ship's voice echoed through the corridor. "Welcome aboard the Echo Star. We have been waiting." "Who's we?" she asked, heart pounding. Silence. Then a door opened. Inside was a room filled with memories. Photos of her father. Videos of Earth from long ago. Even a framed image of her as a baby. Tears welled in her eyes. This was not an alien ship. This was her father's ship, and somehow it was still alive. ####. The final message came next. A soft humming noise. Then a hologram appeared. It was Aaron Rourke. Younger, smiling, speaking to a camera. "If you're seeing this, then the ship made it back. Elise, my girl, I'm sorry I left, but we found something out there. Something incredible. Something dangerous." The hologram flickered. "This ship has been altered. It's no longer just human tech. It's evolved, and it brought something back with it. Be careful, Elise. The past is not done with us." Then the screen went dark. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Final scene of part 2. Elise stood alone in the heart of the ship. The lights dimmed. The walls pulsed gently, alive with energy. She placed her hand on a control panel. It lit up instantly, scanning her skin. And then the ship moved. It powered on, not to flee, but to open something else, a hidden compartment in deep space. Coordinates appeared, unknown, unrecorded, outside the edge of the galaxy. She didn't know what waited there, but her father had gone once, and now she would follow. Elise didn't sleep after the rift closed. The crew of the Echo Star cheered when it vanished. The black spiral that had threatened Earth for days was finally gone. The mysterious alien energy had collapsed into nothingness. But Elise knew it wasn't truly over. The ship's console still blinked with a strange message. Phase 2 begins. No one else had seen it. Only her. The moment it appeared, all other systems returned to normal, like it had never happened. Elise kept it to herself. She had learned to trust her instincts. She wasn't wrong. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Later that night, the Echo Star floated above Earth, waiting for clearance to return home. Elise sat alone in her cabin, holding the silver chip, her father's last gift. She'd destroyed the rift, saved Earth, but she hadn't saved him. Outside her window, the stars were calm again. But inside, her thoughts raced. Then her tablet buzzed. A message. Unknown sender. Her heart skipped. She opened it. It was a single sentence. Coordinates uploaded. You are not alone. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. She rushed to the bridge. Lieutenant Wren, the ship's navigator, frowned as she entered. Back already? He asked. Thought you were sleeping. I need to see the star charts, she said quickly. Pull up recent transmissions. He blinked. Elise, we're under lockdown. Earth Command said no signals left or entered after the rift vanished. I just got one, she said, showing him the tablet. He hesitated, then ran a scan. A second later, his eyes widened. There it is, he whispered. Encrypted burst, barely detectable. Where's it coming from? He stared at the screen. Not where. When. She froze. What do you mean? Wren turned to her, eyes wide. These coordinates, they're not just space. They're time-marked. This came from 3 hours into the future. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. They flew silent toward the marked location. Earth Command didn't respond to requests. And Elise didn't care anymore. She had to know what this meant. The coordinates led them near the Kuiper Belt, at the edge of Earth's solar system. Nothing showed on radar. No heat. No signals. Just empty space. Then, a shimmer. A hole opened silently in front of them, like a ripple in a still pond. From it, a second ship emerged. It wasn't large. It was sleek, dark, covered in unfamiliar markings. Elise stood, heart pounding. That's not Earth tech. No known ID, Wren said softly. And it's broadcasting no code. Elise stepped closer to the window. The ship turned toward them, slowly, like it knew they were watching. Then, it sent a signal. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. A message blinked on Elise's screen. Echo Star Elise work. Mission not complete. Prepare for contact. Phase 2 begins now. She gasped. They know my name. The screen changed again. A shape appeared. Not her father. Not a human. Something else. It had no face. Just light. Its voice came in waves, vibrating the ship's hull. We are the Watchers. We sent the ship you now fly. Elise blinked. You gave us the Echo Star. We gave your kind a door. You broke it. You saw. You felt. Then why contact me now? The voice pulsed again. You carry the memory of the rift. You spoke to the echo. You are marked. Elise felt cold. Are you going to attack Earth? No. the being said. Pause. Unless Earth opens the door again. ####. Ren stepped forward. Wait. So the rift was a test? Yes, a test of restraint. You failed. But we closed it. Elise shouted. You did, the voice said. But others will open it again. They always do. The screen blinked once more. New coordinates appeared, distant, far beyond known space. There is another, the voice said, one who still hears the echo. Elise narrowed her eyes. Who? The voice faded. One last sentence remained. The next rift is already growing. ####. Back on Earth, Elise tried to report everything. But the system logs were gone. The tablet self-erased. Even Ren's scan vanished. No proof remained. Earth Command dismissed her claims. There's no Phase 2, the director said. You're exhausted. Go home. But Elise knew better. Her father had said something was coming. Now she knew what he meant. The rift was closed, but only for now. Someone else was listening. Someone else had started Phase 2. And she had to find them before it was too late. Elise stood alone on the bridge of the Echostar. The ghost of her father was gone. The ship groaned under pressure from forces she still didn't understand. Outside, the rift spun like a black whirlpool, alive and angry. She stared at the console, its message repeated in pulsing red. To close the door, you must step through it. Her hands trembled. She didn't know what was on the other side. She didn't know if she'd come back. But she knew one thing for sure now. This wasn't just about her father. This was about Earth. The rift was growing. If it wasn't closed soon, it would swallow everything. With a deep breath, she opened the outer airlock doors. ####. Echo Star Command. This is Elise Rourke, she said into her helmet mic. Her voice was steady, but her heart thundered in her chest. I'm stepping through. If I don't return, tell my mother I'm sorry I lied. Tell her I found Dad. No answer. Static hissed in her earpiece. She stepped forward. The rift waited like a silent mouth, spinning in silence beyond the shattered hull of the derelict ship. With her boots clamping to the hull's surface, she reached the edge. Beyond it, nothing made sense. Colors that didn't belong. Lights that moved without source. Shapes that changed when she blinked. She took one last look behind her. Then she jumped. ####. At first, nothing. Then noise, whispers, echoes, laughter and screams mixed in strange harmony. Elise floated through a tunnel of memories not her own. She saw civilizations lost to time. She saw machines that thought like people. She saw alien beings building the rift. And then she saw Earth. Beautiful blue Earth. A small dot in a dark ocean. And something watching it. Something that had noticed the signal. ####. The vision ended with a flash. Elise landed on hard ground, though gravity felt strange here. She stood up in a world of shifting skies and floating stones. Nothing looked real, but it all felt alive. In the distance, she saw the old Echo Star, her father's ship. But here, it was whole, untouched, like time had reversed. She approached it slowly. The air felt thick, like breathing underwater. The ship door opened without sound. Inside, lights flickered on. Screens showed static. Then, her father's face appeared. But this time, he was real. Breathing. A man, not a ghost. "Dad," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes wide with pain and wonder. "Elise, how did you get here?" "I followed the signal," she said, tears in her eyes. "I followed you." He stepped forward, but his body shimmered strangely, like he was caught between places. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. "The rift changes people. It changed me. It traps what it can't understand. I came to close it," she said, "before something worse comes through." His face went pale. They're already coming. He turned and showed her a chamber, glowing with the same energy as the rift. This was the core of the ship, he said. We thought we could use alien tech to travel anywhere, but we didn't know it was alive. You mean the ship was never ours to use? He nodded. It was a key. But we broke the lock. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. The ground shook. Lights dimmed. Voices returned, deeper this time. Not words, just feelings. Anger, curiosity, hunger. They found you, her father said. What do I do? Elise asked. He touched her hand, then placed something small in her palm, a silver chip. This holds the shutdown code. The echo star on your side can close the rift, but only if someone enters this world to plant the final signal. You can't go. He shook his head. I'm already part of this place. I'm the ghost now. But you're still real. Tears welled up in her eyes. Dad. He gave a sad smile. You always were stronger than me. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. She ran. Back to the portal. Back to the edge of the rift. Behind her, shapes began to form, towering beings of shifting matter. They watched her, but did not chase. They whispered in ancient thought. She sees, she knows. Close the gate. Elise leaped through. Light consumed her. And then, she was back. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. She slammed the chip into the console. The Echo Star AI blinked once, then displayed. Shutdown code accepted. Rift collapse initiated. Outside, the black spiral began to fold inward, shrinking. Energy crackled. The void screamed. Then, silence. The rift was gone. So was the second Echo Star. So was her father. Elise fell to her knees, breathing hard. She was alone again. But Earth was safe. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. A single message appeared on the console. Signal terminated. Memory preserved. And just beneath it, Phase 2 begins. The Echo Star moved silently through space, far beyond the moon's orbit. Elise Work sat alone in the captain's chair, watching strange symbols appear across the holographic display. The ship wasn't just alive, it was thinking. The old human systems were still there, but something else had fused with them. Something not made by Earth. The coordinates pulsed on the screen. 3 red dots aligned over a black star-shaped mark. The computer translated only one thing. Edge of known space. Is this where you went, Dad? Elise whispered. A soft hum filled the cabin. The ship answered her in its way. It turned slowly and plotted a course. The stars ahead seemed darker, colder, as if warning her to stay away. But Elise had already decided. She was going. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Back at Kessler 9 station, the command center was in chaos. She's leaving the solar system without clearance, General Hartman barked. Lock her out. We can't, Lane replied. That ship's not using our systems. It's rewriting protocols as it moves. Like, it's smarter than us. On screen, the Echo Star jumped into light speed without using a standard drive. There was no bright flash. No warning. It just vanished. Hartman stared at the empty screen. That ship isn't human anymore. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Inside the Echo Star, Elise experienced a strange dreamlike state as the ship traveled faster than any Earth vessel. The windows around her blurred with strange colors. Purple, gold, green, and shadows danced on the walls. Then with a soft jolt, the ship slowed. They had arrived. She looked out the forward viewport. Nothing. No planets. No stars. Just blackness. She tapped the console. Where are we? A soft light flickered. Then the answer came on screen. Dimension drift point. Time fracture field present. Do not proceed alone. What does that mean? She asked. The ship did not answer. Instead, it opened a small room in the back. Inside was a device like a helmet, with ancient markings etched into its shell. She picked it up carefully. The word "meteoroid" blinked red on its side. Suddenly, a new voice filled the ship, deep, layered, and not human. Do not look into the rift. Do not remember what you were. Do not try to bring back the past. Elise dropped the helmet. Her heart pounded. What is this place? She whispered. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. She walked toward the observation deck. And there, through the glass, something appeared. A space that bent itself, like a folding mirror, into a shape that hurt to look at. In the center floated what looked like another echo star. But it was twisted, aged, almost dead, floating endlessly. She gasped. That was the original echo star. Her father's ship. How? She breathed. The ship began transmitting again. Another audio file from her father, recorded long ago. Elise, if you're hearing this, then I failed. The mission. It turned. Something found us out here. Something that didn't like being washed. I tried to keep it away from Earth. I tried to hide. But I think it followed the signal home. The message cut out. Suddenly, the black space beyond the windows lit up. Not from light, but from movement. Something massive stirred in the darkness. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Back on Earth, the United Space Command received a pulse. One single signal from the lost region of space. The EDOR is OP-in. Scientists tried to trace the origin, but they couldn't. It didn't come from a star system. It didn't even come from real space. It came from somewhere outside of time. Panic began to spread through command. What door did she open? One officer asked. No one could answer. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Inside the Echo Star, Elise tried to back away from the observation deck. The thing in space was not a ship. It had no engines, no weapons. It was a shape that bent around itself, too large to see, yet always in front of her eyes. The Echo Star's systems flickered. Lights dimmed. The floor vibrated. Then a single warning appeared on the screen. Contact imminent. Hold onto identity. What does that mean? Elise shouted. What identity? The ship began to shake violently. She ran to the chair and strapped in. Outside, the void bloomed like a black flower, and the twisted version of her father's ship suddenly cracked open. And from inside, something stepped out. Something that looked like Aaron Rourke, but it wasn't human anymore. Elise gripped the armrests of the captain's chair as the Echo Star groaned under unseen pressure. Outside the glass, the twisted ship cracked open like an old shell, and from its dark heart, something stepped out. He looked human. He looked like her father. But no human could survive in space like that. Not without a suit. Not in this dead region beyond stars. Elise's voice trembled. Dad. The figure floated closer to the ship. No propulsion. No movement of legs. Just gliding. Then he spoke. Not through speakers. Not through the comm system. He spoke directly into her mind. Elise, you shouldn't have come here. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. She stumbled back from the screen, pressing her hands to her head. The voice felt wrong. Too clear, too deep. The man outside turned his face slowly toward her. His eyes glowed faint blue. And when he smiled, it wasn't her father's smile. It was hollow. Dead. Who are you? She whispered. The voice replied again, still inside her head. I am what remains of the one you seek. The Echo Star's lights dimmed. Strange patterns danced across the walls. Symbols she didn't understand. They moved like they were alive. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. In the science core of the ship, the alien drive began to hum. Strange energy readings spiked. The sensors couldn't identify them. Then the ship's AI, still struggling to interpret the fusion of alien tech, finally translated a message written across the inner hull. Consciousness corrupted. Return impossible. Memory not safe. Elise felt cold. Her heart pounded. The voice returned. This place, This rift is not a path. It is a prison, and I am its first prisoner. ####. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Hartman watched data pouring in from the deep space relay. Images were blurry but showed Elise's ship near a second echo star. The technicians stared at the screen. "That can't be the original," one whispered. "That ship was lost 5 years ago." Hartman turned to Lane. "Get me Project Lazarus files. Now." Lane looked up, pale. "Sir, that project was shut down. It was labeled a mistake." Hartman's voice hardened. "It's not shut down anymore." ####. Back on the Echo Star, Elise reached for the helmet device, the one that had played her father's message before. She placed it on her head, and at once the world around her shifted. Not physically, but mentally. She saw memories that weren't hers, fleeting images, a planet swallowed by light, a black moon spinning backward, voices whispering in languages not spoken by humans. And then she saw him, Aaron Rourke, her father, inside a lab. He was arguing with someone, a tall alien being, cloaked in shifting robes. "You promised she'd be safe," he shouted. The alien's voice was calm. "You made a choice. The rift opens both ways. What leaves must return." Changed. The vision shattered. Elise gasped and tore off the helmet. Sweat dripped down her face. Her hands shook. Her father had made a deal. ####. Outside, the twisted form drifted closer. The Echo Star's defenses activated automatically, but the being raised one hand. And the weapons shut down. He didn't attack. He simply spoke again. "I remember you, before you were born. Your voice in my mind. Your fear." Elise stood up, anger rising now. "You're not my father." "I was." "Then what are you now?" she asked, stepping forward. The figure paused. The glow in his eyes dimmed. "I am the echo of a choice, a father who went too far. And a door that should never have opened." ####. The ship trembled. Something else was waking. A ripple passed through the black void outside, a tremor in the fabric of space itself. The beam turned slowly, as if hearing something Elise could not. "They're coming," he whispered. "Who's coming?" she asked. "The ones who built the rift. The ones who erased themselves to stop it. I couldn't stop the signal, but maybe you can." Suddenly, the being began to dissolve. Not in pain. As if he had completed what little he was allowed to do. His last words echoed in her head. "Close the door, before they notice Earth." Then he vanished into dust, scattered into the dark. ####. Elise turned to the console. The screen flashed red. Entity deleted. Rift signature expanding. Incoming presence detected. She had little time. She slammed her hands on the controls. "I need answers. Show me how to close it." The AI responded. "To close the door, you must step through it." The stars hung silently above Earth's orbit, like tiny white eyes watching everything. On the edge of space, Station Kessler 9 floated in darkness. It was just another quiet day for the crew, until the signal came. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," said Officer Lane, his voice tight. Commander Elise Rourke leaned over his shoulder. Her dark eyes narrowed at the screen. A shape had appeared on the outer scanner. It wasn't blinking. It wasn't moving fast. But it was definitely there, gliding through space like a silent shadow. "Is it one of ours?" Elise asked. "No, ma'am. No ID, no beacon. It's not in any database. Not human. Not alien either," Lane said. Elise's stomach tightened. Every ship in the galaxy, human or alien, had a registry code. This one didn't. That was impossible. "Distance?" she asked. 2 million kilometers in closing. He'll pass by the moon in less than 48 hours. Elise crossed her arms. She had seen many things in her career, black market alien traders, pirate drones, even rogue AI ships. But this felt different. "Try to hail it," she ordered. A moment later, Lane shook his head. No reply. "But—" He stopped, blinking. "But what?" It just sent something. One word. In English. Everyone in the room froze. "Put it on screen," Elise said. The main monitor flickered. One word appeared in big white letters. "Re-2RN." Silence filled the control deck. Even the air felt heavier. "Is this a joke?" someone whispered. Elise shook her head. "It's not a joke. This is real." But how? And what was this ship returning to? ####. Back on Earth, panic had already begun to spread. News outlets flashed with breaking stories. Unknown object approaching Earth. Military on alert. Alien vessel, or something worse. Governments tried to calm people, but the internet exploded with theories. Aliens, time travelers, ghosts, weapons. Some people prayed. Others grabbed their rifles. But no one had answers. And the ship kept coming. ####. Elise stood in the war room at United Space Command HQ. The room was dark, cold, and full of whispers. A giant hologram of the ship hovered above the center table. It looked smooth, sharp, and silent, almost beautiful, like a silver arrow cutting through space. But what made everyone nervous was this. The ship didn't match any known design. It had no windows, no engines, no lights. And yet, it moved with perfect control. General Hartman spoke. "We've reviewed every database, every design. From Earth and the Galactic Council. This ship doesn't exist. Not on record. Not even in theory." Elise nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's not from now." "What do you mean?" asked Hartman. She looked at the glowing ship above them. "Maybe it's from the past." He laughed bitterly. "You're saying this is a ghost ship?" "No," she said. "I'm saying it could be human, but lost a long time ago." ####. Back on Kessler 9, the station shook. Impact. Elise called into her headset. "No, ma'am. It's scanning us." The unknown ship was now much closer. It had stopped near the moon. And now, without warning, it had sent out a pulse of energy. But not a weapon. A scan. The kind of scan used by ships long ago. Deep, curious, almost gentle. Then it sent another message. A new word. One that made Elise's blood run cold. "Welcome back." That night, Elise sat alone in her quarters, staring at old photos. One photo showed her and her father standing next to a ship prototype, a design never built, a dream that was lost years ago in a test flight gone wrong. Her father had vanished with that ship. No wreckage was found. No signal. Just gone. Now something was returning. Something with the same design. And it knew who she was. ####. Final scene of Part 1. As Earth's defenses power up and the world watches in fear, the unknown ship stops moving. Its front begins to open, slowly, silently, like a mouth ready to speak. No one knows what waits inside. But one thing is certain. The ship has come back for something. And it won't leave empty-handed. The coordinates from the alien message pointed far beyond known space, deep past the edge of the Milky Way, near a system called Theta 9. Elise Rourke stood on the bridge of the Eco-Star. She stared at the stars ahead. "Set course," she said quietly. Lieutenant Wren hesitated. "Elise, Earth Command said no." "I'm not asking them," she said. "If what that being said is true, another rift is coming. We have to stop it before it opens." Wren looked at her, then nodded. Understood. The ship's engines roared to life. The stars blurred as they entered jump space. Elise gripped the console. "Dad, I hope I'm right." ####. Days passed. Theta 9 was a cold system. 7 dead planets. No life signs. But something was there. Elise saw it first, through the ship's long-range sensors. A flicker. A dark spiral floating in space, smaller than the first rift, but growing. She felt it deep in her chest. "It's starting," she whispered. ####. The Echo Star approached slowly. As they neared, instruments began to fail, just like before. Lights flickered. Gravity shifted. Time bent. Ren held onto the rail. "This is worse than last time." "It's learning," Elise said. The rift pulsed. And then a ship came through. ####. It was not alien. It was Earth-made. An old vessel, classified as destroyed 20 years ago. The SS Meridian. But that ship had exploded. Everyone on board had died. Elise had studied the incident as a cadet. So how was it here, undamaged, floating silently? "No signal," Ren said. "No crew life signs." Elise felt something twist inside her. "Boarded," she said. ####. They docked carefully. Elise and 2 crew members entered the Meridian. The ship's lights flickered as if waking up. Inside was silence. No bodies. No damage. Just echoes. Elise stepped into the command room. A single message played on loop. It was her father's voice. "If you're hearing this, then the Meridian was pulled through the first rift. Time is broken. Reality is folding. Elise, I hope you never see this." She froze. "Dad." The message continued. "They lied. The Watchers aren't just observers. They're trying to stop something. Something worse. Static. Then, Earth is not the only world that opens doors." The message ended. Elise stood frozen. The ship was a ghost, and it had returned from a future that hadn't happened yet. ####. Back aboard the Echo Star, Ren looked pale. "We need to destroy this rift," he said. "Now." Elise nodded. The plan was simple. Use the Echo Star's core to destabilize the spiral, like before. But this one was different. Stronger. As they approached, the rift opened wider, faster than expected. Ships came through. Not one. Not 2. Dozens. Some were alien. Some were Earth-made. Old prototypes. Secret crafts. Ghosts. All these ships were lost, Ren said. Years ago. Now they're back. "And they're not empty," Elise whispered. ####. From the nearest ship, a figure emerged. Not quite human. Not quite alien. It floated outside, glowing with rift energy. It spoke with her father's voice. "Elise, you must close it, before the echo wakes." She stared. "You're not him." "No," the being said. "But I carry his memory, his warning." "What is the echo?" "The end," the being said, "of all choice, of time itself." The rift pulsed. It was almost fully open now. ####. Elise made her choice. She pushed the core to critical. "Evacuate the ship," she told Ren. "What about you?" "I have to do this." He stared at her. "You'll die." She smiled sadly. "I'll stop it. That's enough." He grabbed her hand. "Elise, go." He left. She stayed. She stared at the rift. Then, she sent one last message. "To anyone listening, we can't keep opening doors. There's always something waiting behind them." She closed her eyes and triggered the overload. ####. The explosion was quiet in space, but the rift collapsed. The ships vanished. The ghost signals faded. Elise's work was gone, but Earth was safe. For now. ####. Back on Earth, months later, a young girl played in a field. She looked to the stars and paused. A strange sound echoed in her mind, like a whisper, like a memory. She blinked, and the stars above her shifted, just for a second. Then silence. The rift was watching. And somewhere, the echo waited.